Do you know who Jeffrey Epstein is? Well, gentlemen, we have similar cases here in Spain too.
I'm facing 2 criminal cases and 9 years in prison.
People think that in the United States, oh yes, they like them, in the United States, children. But it seems that throughout all Western politics, there's a clear perversion towards children.
It all starts when I file a complaint against Monica Oltra for the institutional cover-up of her husband's abuse, who is now in prison. If I hadn't managed to prove that there was no disclosure of secrets with the evidence I provided, today I would be sentenced to 4 years in prison.
Is Monica Oltra's husband going to benefit from Irene Montero's law?
Well, yes, he will get out earlier. I mean, if you look up Cristina Seguí now, you'll find Cristina Seguí convicted of torturing rape victims. He goes to a woman's house or to a school while the woman is at home, and he takes a child and she never sees him again. All her children end up with families, with couples, lesbian, gay, transgender, bisexual, and intersex.
Very good, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of LA Factoria. Today we have the great pleasure, well, I don't know if it's a great pleasure because honestly it's a pretty tough episode, and I hope you listen to it until the end. Because oh my God, how is this country, how is politics, how is justice being used as a tool to harm individuals who try to expose the corruption? Our guest today is a very brave woman, a very courageous woman, a woman who has already faced trials where they were asking for prison sentences for exposing the truth. And today she's going to tell us why she's here today. She is Cristina Seguí. Welcome, how are you?
How are you, Jota? Thank you so much for having me. I really wanted to be here, and I think this is the best reason I could have to be here, right? What?
That opportunity?
See you later.
Well, it's a rather tough opportunity because tell us, Cristina, what are you facing in just barely a month and a bit, right?
I've been facing this for 5.5 years, ever since those 5 years ago, which was from the moment I managed to when I filed that criminal complaint against Monica Oltra for the case of institutional cover-ups of sexual abuse of a girl under her guardianship at the hands of her husband, who is now in prison, started a wave of lawsuits from her and from the armed wing of the prosecutor's office. From this lady, who is her close friend, Susana Gisbert, prosecutor for hate crimes and gender violence in the Valencian community, who attends commitment events. Monica Oltra presented her poetry book. They are close friends and show it openly. In total, in 2 criminal cases, I am facing 9 years in prison. I have already faced the first one for a single act, for which I now have a 15-month sentence. Out of the 4.5 years they were asking for, and now I have a new trial on March 2nd at 9:30 at the City of Justice in Valencia. They are asking for another 4.5 years. It all comes from the same prosecutor and, of course, going through a complicated path with leaks to the press. I mean, my investigation proceedings, when they were confidential and only on this lady's desk, ended up on the phones of several journalists. One of them sends me a photo of my proceedings and I say, this can't be happening. I go to the dean's office and from the courts we have nothing, but yes, it's there. It must be in the prosecutor's office. I get a confession from an official who tells me it's a leak, and of course they're the ones leaking, to create a process that lasts a year and a half, in which you are the subject of an investigation or inquiry by the judges and of constant headlines in the press, in which they paint you as a monster and you arrive at trial mortally wounded, being seen as a monster.
I'd like to start by asking you to tell us a little bit. In both cases, you first faced one trial and now you're facing another. Tell us a little bit, how did your
crusade begin?
Not just against this government, but against the whole system. I agree, it's not about governments, but about how everything works overall.
Yes, and when we're talking about children, you realize there are a lot of people involved.
We're going to end up talking about Epstein too, because I think there are several things. People think that in the United States, oh yes, in the United States, they like children. It seems that throughout all of Western politics, there is a clear perversion towards children. And they're even offered as sacrifices.
And this is a worldview of the far left in which people who like children participate. Now we'll talk about that, of course. Let's see. It all starts when I file a complaint against Monica Ultra for the institutional cover-up of her husband's abuse, who is now in prison. He was sentenced to 5 years in prison. It's curious because he was given fewer years for abusing a girl than what they're asking for me, just for telling what we're about to tell. And when was he convicted? We see in the sentence that the prosecution and the judges describe a parajudicial report ordered by the Department of Equality. From Monica Ultra, the top leader was Monica Ultra, in which it is said that there was a parajudicial report, therefore illegal, an administrative investigation process. When this lady receives at home the news from the court that her husband is being investigated for abusing a girl, in the supervised center where he is placed, he is put there by his wife. We see in this matter that this man is privileged, that she orders a psychological report paid for with public money from a private center to discredit the girl and make her look like a liar. That certain psychologists, friends, and subsidized by Ultra say that this girl has lied and made up those sexual assaults, so she keeps this in the drawer. And in 2019, when her husband is put on trial, she gives that psychological report to the defense to save her husband from going to jail. This was arranged by her and several high-ranking officials, and they are currently being investigated by the Court of Instruction number 15 of Valencia. Well, this started. She was officially charged in 2023, and I am the accuser in this matter, meaning the only person who has filed a complaint against her directly is me as a private prosecutor. From there, 2 lawsuits from Monica Ultra followed, as well as an action by the gender violence prosecutor, whose name is Susana Gisbert, who has prosecuted the Vice President Dani Esteve and Ricardo Ferris. The police inspector only and exclusively dedicates herself to prosecuting people based on what she understands. The far right know while tweeting that you are an ultra leader. And of course, all those prosecuted are victims of continuous leaks to the press to influence your case, and so that you end up, well, absolutely yes,
Having been publicly chastised,
sentenced, and that the judges feel that if they dare to make a decision according to the law, well, they will be subjected to public ridicule. They accused me of posting a tweet in which I say that some minors who claim to have been raped in the famous Burgess Sot cabin made it up, because of a live stream they did on Instagram saying exactly, we're going to become famous, we're going to make a lot of money on television, don't they know it's a lie?
so some girls report a rape in a cabin in Burgess Sot, okay? And the girls post a live stream,
A live stream on Instagram,
claimed it was a lie and they'd get famous by posting stories on Instagram.
laughing, saying they were going to get famous, that they were going to make a ton of money, that their mother would never doubt their credibility. And based on that, I posted a tweet.
How did you get the live stream? People sent it, right?
The parents from the school let me know. That live stream is already in a bunch of chats, even on some Facebook profiles. And I go to check the stories of one of these girls, and it's in the stories. You know that stories last about 24 hours, right?
Yes.
It's there, I take it, I extract that video, which is also sent to me by some of the parents from the school. They're saying they're going to put some kids in jail who haven't done anything. These kids are in a detention center today because 2 years after this, no evidence has been collected. The trial isn't held because they reach an agreement in which these kids spend 4 years in a detention center. Of course, no journalist, manages to get the amount of information that I have about this matter. In the interest of my freedom of expression and information, I correct a news report from Europa Press in which they say that these boys raped these minors. I post a tweet that literally says, "Hello, Europa Press." I correct the age of the minors. Did they do it to become famous? And I end up saying something like, "Are you a feudal reader?" Literally. Well, it turns out that I was charged for this matter without me knowing, and I started to investigate.
And what was the accusation? I mean, what are you being accused of?
They're accusing me of revealing secrets, and an aggravating factor of hatred towards women. I mean, as if I weren't one of them. When the trial takes place, and since they can't charge me with revealing secrets, they convict me for sexting.
What's that, for the sexual messages?
Sexting is when you, for example, have a lover for a while.
You get each other turned on.
Through messages and material she sent you, you share it with third parties, betraying her trust. Well, they did sexting to me. Why? Because they need a distribution crime, which is the crime that will get you in trouble.
But didn't you leak a conversation with your lover?
No, it doesn't matter. It's the criminal charge. It wasn't legally correct at all. It wasn't the right criminal charge, but they convicted me, and not only that.
But look, I still don't understand. How can they convict you when it's obvious to anyone? You showed me the tweet before we came in here. I don't understand. It's just a conversation.
It's a live stream of them with their faces covered.
Them admitting they filed a false report.
Exactly.
Exactly. So you're just repeating what they themselves said.
I paraphrase what they say, and I correct a news story from Europa Press. In fact, I even tag Europa Press.
Didn't you think you'd get into that mess by doing that? It just doesn't make sense.
But the sentence is for a crime of torture. I mean, I haven't been convicted of slander in the civil sphere. They've taken me to the criminal sphere, which is the last resort in law. And they convict me of torture?
For torture?
Article 173.1 of the Penal Code refers to torture. It's degrading treatment. There are 3 types of torture: unjust harassment in order of importance, degrading treatment, and torture committed by a public official. Normally, so that people understand, degrading treatment is always a crime that is ideally combined with a more serious one and allows judges to increase the penalties. For example, if a man has hit his wife and shaves her head, shaving her head is considered degrading treatment. When the terrorist group Yuskadita Askatasuna used to kidnap people, for a man to be kidnapped for several days, sleeping on his own feces and without eating, was considered degrading treatment. So this type of degrading treatment means that, first of all, it requires a continuous attack. That's why they call it treatment. But there is a modification that says when the action, even if it's a single event, is brutal enough, it can be considered degrading treatment.
And echoing their own words is degrading treatment, brutal enough to condemn you?
It's an action as brutal as taking an abused woman, shaving her head, and displaying her in a public square. That's what they consider. This case comes from Susanna Gisbert's desk. This is the case that comes to me.
Are they going to come after me now after this? No, they're not coming after me.
No, I'll tell you this myself. Don't worry.
No, better not come to me. Leave me alone. Let's see if they're going to convict me over this matter.
I found out that they were investigating me for this 6 months before I was officially under investigation. They have 6 months to complete the internal investigations or the proceedings before handing it over to a judge, so the judge can see if there is any indication of a crime and carry out the proceedings. Well, this came to me through a WhatsApp message from a journalist, and she said to me, "Hey, did this come from you?" So this lady dedicated herself to leaking my confidential investigation proceedings to journalists. Was it so that it would already be spread around that I was being investigated for something? Okay, when I tell you that they convict me for sexting, they apply it to me. Also, a modification of the only yes means yes law from October 2022 when I posted the tweet in May. That is totally unconstitutional, totally illegal. You can't apply a law that didn't exist at the time the act was committed. Alleged crime. So on appeal, we got rid of the crime of dissemination. I haven't shared any video because you charged me with a crime that didn't exist. Applying retroactive laws is unconstitutional. That law didn't exist when I acted, so it can't apply to me. When I committed that crime for which I was convicted, the current sentence is solely and exclusively for degrading treatment, which is 15 months in prison. If I hadn't managed to prove that there was no disclosure of secrets there by providing the evidence I did, today I would be sentenced to 4 years in prison.
Practically the same as the pedophile, the husband of Monica Ortega.
Because they were asking for 4.5 years for me, and this one got 5 years. He was sentenced to 5.
And is Monica Ultra's husband going to benefit from Irene Montero's law?
Well, yes, he'll get out earlier, of course.
It reminds me of the country's meme, Cristina. He'll be out sooner, of course. Or Spain for the entire Spanish-speaking audience. You don't go to prison if you're sentenced to 15 months, if you're sentenced to less than 2 years in jail. Keep this in mind, okay? If you're sentenced to less than 2 years in jail, you don't go in for 2 years and...
One day you go in.
Yes.
Regardless of that, 15 months in prison that they allow them for years since they sentenced me in 2024 to establish that you are some kind of corrupter of minors. I mean, now you look up Cristina Seguí and you get Cristina Seguí convicted for torturing rape victims.
At the end of the day, that rape trial hasn't gone anywhere.
That trial doesn't happen. They don't go to trial because they get scared.
They or she?
They are the ones who have sex with minors. They decide not to go to trial, that the evidence won't be presented, and that they settle for 4 years of detention in a juvenile center. Several, but not all, since some defendants weren't even present at the scene. I mean, there were kids who were in the holding cell who weren't even at the scene of the events, and they were minors.
The kids were also minors?
And well, what about the dream?
Because some little girls had consensual sex, as they admitted in the video, with some boys, and the boys, out of fear of greater consequences, ended up accepting a lesser agreed sentence. Thank you.
I mean, the legal reality is that there was a conviction for sexual assault, and the lawyers...
That's the legal reality.
And there's nothing I can do about that. But I posted my tweet in May 2022, 2 years before the conviction, by agreement of the sentence, by agreement. However, I understand that a tweet in which you don't insult, in which you don't reveal the identity of the minors, and in which you're also correcting yourself, it's basically news. It can't be a crime of torture, because if it were, we'd all have a very serious problem. In other words, this, which is now in the admission chamber of the Supreme Court, if it's rejected by the admission chamber because it doesn't have any appeal interest for them, that is, it's going to set a legal precedent, and they believe they don't have to get into the substance of the matter. Many people will end up in jail over tweets, but not truly because of the tweets themselves. Like that. I want to plant a bomb for the civil guard, not in tweets where you call Elisa Mulia or whoever you consider whatever you want. I also have to say I wasn't insulting anyone. There's nothing. I didn't insult anyone. And then there's something else the accusations did. And I'm including the investigating magistrate Pedro, the examining judge, the judge of first instance, and the 3 magistrates of the Provincial Court of Valencia, which is to mutilate the only piece of evidence for which I was convicted. That is, they never transcribed the entire tweet. Why? Because one of the requirements for it to be considered degrading treatment is that you directly attack the victim. If I attack Europa Press with the first and last sentence, that criminal offense of degrading treatment of attacking the victim is not fulfilled. So they erase the first sentence and erase the last one. When I call you a fraud to the reader, they erase it. And a tweet from Anna was constructed. They alter, they mutilate the only evidence, which was that brutal act. So why should we go?
We're going to put the tweet on the screen now so you can see it, okay? And they mutilated the sentence above, and the one below, and the one below.
The first and the last. Exactly.
But one question, hasn't even the Constitutional Court helped you with this?
Does a constitutional one follow the Supreme Court? What we did was to force a correction, to demand a correction from the Provincial Court of Valencia, which they didn't like at all. I'm telling you, and we've included it in the Supreme Court appeal.
Are you still working through this so it doesn't feel unresolved for you?
Of course.
Of course, that's how it should be, because what you're telling me doesn't make sense. It seems to me like an absolutely spurious use of the justice system to attack an incredible ideological rival.
It's unbelievable. But also what I'm saying isn't even questionable. What I'm saying is included in the ruling, in an appeal, and in the correction obtained from the Provincial Court of Valencia. That is, when you go to appeal to the Supreme Court, there's a fundamental requirement. Without it, you can't appeal to the Supreme Court, or the Supreme Court will dismiss your appeal right away. Reviewed for form, perfect in form. And the thing is, you have to accept the proven facts. If the proven facts say that you intended to torture, you have to go to the Supreme Court saying, I intended to torture. But even so, the criminal offense is not fulfilled. Those proven facts are built based on that tweet. If you alter the tweet, if you mutilate the tweet on which you have built them, the proven facts are illegitimate, they are perverse, they are false. That is to say, very, very, very.
But really heavy, Cristina.
But the thing is, secondly,
It's not clear because now the audience believes, right? Look, the podcast is, we've arranged this podcast, we've talked so you could come to talk about this, and the answer is no, because now something worse is coming. Worse is that I have to make a brief introduction. Cristina, if you allow me, do you remember Melchor Mirales and his lawyer, the president of the association, Poetic Justice? They've already told us here on this podcast about how minors under guardianship are used for the pleasure of politicians, officials, judges. Do you recall the Cote and Cabezudo case? Do you know who Jeffrey Epstein is? Well, gentlemen, just so you know, we have our own cases here in Spain too. And Cristina is now going to talk about another case she's facing. I'm going to let her speak, and I'm going to let her tell us, because what she's about to share is outrageous.
all right, let's move on to the second matter, which is the one being tried at the City of Justice in Valencia next March 2nd at 9:30. Public hearing. What I'm going to say here, you'll be able to see for yourselves that day. In 2021, I started this whole matter by filing a complaint. A complaint endorsed and signed by 5 mothers with their names, surnames, and identification numbers, whose children have been taken away from them and placed under guardianship with a case file of neglect. That's what needs to be signed. What the public official or the territorial councilor has to sign for the administration. Goes to a woman's house or goes to a school while the woman is at home and takes a child away and she never sees them again. It's better. The one who signs this is named Carmen Fenolosa. This lady was investigated in the case of Monica Oltra for covering up the abuse of the girl who was a victim of Oltra's husband. Because at the time,
How old was the girl? Sorry.
the girl was 13 when she was continuously abused and taken advantage of in a room of the same care center where she was being punished. All right, during the investigation, we meet Carmen Fenolosa, the regional director of Castellón, okay? This lady admits in court that the Department of Equality, led by Monica Oltra, was involved. Restraining orders from the investigating judge to keep the abuser away from the girl who is in the supervised center. These restraining orders are processed in the department and hidden, and the abuser is not kept away from the girl. At the supervised center is the lady in charge of these restraining orders, which were processed by mistake during her statement. It's Carmen Fenolosa who is the lady responsible for signing the orders of abandonment. Of all the mothers who asked me to file a complaint with the ombudsman, they ask me because they know me. After the press reports that I am prosecuting Monica Oltra, they ask me for help, and I write a report in which I state that these mothers have had their children taken away and that all the children have ended up with couples. Lesbian, gay, transgender, bisexual, and intersex couples close to the administration at that time when the Socialist Party and Compromís were in power. All the children taken from these mothers who are asking me for help. I confirm that they were signed by the same regional director, Carmen Fenolosa, from CEA, who at the time provided this evidence. I'm telling you about the Monica Oltra case, in which it's clear that they hid orders, restraining order against Oltra's husband from the minor. In other words, Monica Oltra hid restraining orders that had been issued by a judge from the Court of Instruction. They hide them, they keep them, and by mistake, they present this during the testimony and the proceedings of the trial against Monica Oltra and Company. In the process, this lady is the one who signs the abandonment files for all the women who later ask her for help. All of her children end up with families, with couples. The TBI axis, close to the administration, somehow connected to the Socialist Party and to Compromís. I send this report to the Ombudsman, in which I also include the subsidies that go to certain third sector companies that are in charge of managing these children within the foster care centers. These are the NGOs that claim they don't charge anything, but they take most of the money that the state gives for each child in the foster care centers. When you see that a child costs 4, 5, 6,000 euros a month, 8,000 euros a month, it depends on the child and on the autonomous community. That money doesn't go to the child, it doesn't go to the family, it goes to the clientelist network of the administration. That's where the foster children business is. All right? I make a very thorough report that I'm going to give to you, and these women ask me for help. One of these families is a family in Castellón, and it has to do with a baby girl who was taken from them on January 1st. On January 2nd, 2018, from the Castellón hospital. The reason is a neglect report signed by Carmen Senolosa because the father still hasn't registered the baby girl. Okay? They can take your children away for whatever reason they want. It's completely arbitrary, and for years, the administration's decision prevails over judicial decisions. The administration acts, and you fight with it for years, and this is one of the best examples. Well, they take the child away at 9 months old. This child is placed in an irregular foster care situation, and to this day it's considered irregular because we have a Supreme Court ruling that describes it as such. To a lesbian, gay, transgender, bisexual, and intersex couple.
Men or women? Men.
Gentlemen, it's not that I'm homophobic, it's just that it's a lesbian, gay, transgender, bisexual, and intersex couple, just like all the other couples. Of all the mothers whose children are taken and placed with those couples, what do you want me to do?
These mothers' children always end up with couples.
Exactly. Lesbian, gay, transgender, bisexual, and intersex. Close to the administration.
Related to the administration.
That's the case with this man. That's the case with this man named Victor Serra, Victor Manuel Serra Piqué, lesbian, gay, transgender, bisexual, and intersex secretary of the Socialist Party. Also, in his organization, in his lesbian, gay, transgender, bisexual, and intersex association, Miralcan de Turia, there's the Secretary of Childhood and Adolescence of the Socialist Party at the regional level, Ms. Noemi Mirales. And these people are left with this minor. Despite a first instance ruling, there is an appeal, a second instance ruling, and the Supreme Court ruling. They say that the department is required to prepare a plan to gradually reintegrate the minor into her biological family. That girl was 5 years old at the time.
She had been with these couples for 5 years.
She hadn't been able to meet...
Not even her mother.
Not even her mother. Her father lost his life in the process. I'm not going to go into details.
He took it from her.
From her grandparents. For 5 years. But these grandparents have to endure the scorn and coercion from the department. They are told. First of all, they're told not to worry, not to make a fuss, because the parents are very young and can have more children. This is something that's often said to families whose children are taken away.
But I have a delicate question to ask you. Has this girl suffered abuse?
No.
Okay.
Not that I know of.
Okay.
Not that I know of, but no.
No, for me, she suffered the greatest abuse that can exist. Being torn from your parents' arms.
They steal your identity for 5 years. You don't know where you come from. You don't know where you come from. And this matter is currently the subject of a judicial process in which Monica Oltra, in addition to being investigated for covering up sexual abuse, this foster girl, specifically by her husband, is now charged with illegal detention of a minor, coercion, and misconduct. Why? Because there is a moment when the council tells the grandparents that either they give up the girl, obviously through the courts, or they will be denied the right to visit her. At the family meeting point, when they finally managed to start seeing her, naturally at the family meeting point, assisted by the administration and under the administration's guardianship for 4 years, they couldn't see her. When they managed to have visits at the family meeting point under supervision, the administration tells them to drop the lawsuit against the administration if they want to keep seeing the girl at the family meeting point. At the time, the father was prevented from registering the minor. They didn't want to register the minor.
So they could later take her away from him. This family is vulnerable.
It's a family that doesn't have the power that the administration has. It's a family that, yes.
I've told you professionally about what happened.
Subtitled by DOS Elvis, Under-Resourced, Low Intellectual and Professional Training. People who don't know how to defend themselves in a legal process. People who can't afford a lawyer. People who the rest of society normally doesn't give a damn about. Because people always believe things like that won't happen to them. But there are also many cases of abused women whose children are taken away by the authorities, first and foremost, for their own good. That's the excuse while this woman is given assistance and finds better conditions so she can have her child. For example, one of the women who signs this complaint to the Ombudsman and to the Síndico de Greuges of the Valencian community, who is the equivalent of the Ombudsman in the Valencian community. She is a woman who has now passed away. They take her child away when she requests a protected apartment, a shelter for vulnerable women. She asks for it because she has a baby, she's alone, the father doesn't want anything to do with the child, and she requests that apartment. One day, this lady, Mrs. Carmen Fenolosa, is called again to fill out some paperwork at the administration office, which is below the supervised apartment center, with the stroller. When the lady comes out, the child is gone from the stroller. She never sees him again. I interviewed this lady. She exists. I interviewed her in 2022.
Well, all these mothers have a platform here and they want to come here, and I want you to know that I give them a voice, okay?
That lady has passed away now. She died last year. And why? And also,
Natural causes.
they said she was obese, which of course she was, that she was obese. In the San Paro file, it says she was obese. They make things up, that she has a boyfriend, that she has an imaginary friend. It's a lie. This woman had a partner she had met in a village. Abused women, complicated divorces, and they don't want them to be with their fathers. The Gaia case in Barcelona is another very paradigmatic administration in this sense.
So you become like the defender. You become the defender of all these mothers involuntarily, of all these, well, voluntarily, because I see you're very passionate about it.
It makes me really angry.
It's normal for you to feel that way.
If they took my son, I'd die. That's normal.
That's normal. I understand you, Cristina. I mean, you start a crusade against the administration, which makes completely arbitrary use of its power and takes children away from certain families, their children. How do you get involved? And how does your legal ordeal begin? What you've told us is serious, but what's coming next sounds even worse. Let's see.
I become a target the moment the press picks up that I managed to prosecute 20 high-ranking officials of the Generalitat Valenciana and Monica Oltra.
For child abduction or for malpractice when it comes to...
For the cover-up, for using public institutions and resources to cover up a sexual abuse, ordering that psychological report we've talked about, and then...
Now with all this situation...
My families start reaching out to me, writing to me through my social media, and there comes a moment when I notice a pattern. I talk to them, and in some cases, I accompany them to social services. These women always explain that their children were taken from them when they were very young babies and given to lesbian, gay, transgender, bisexual, and intersex families. In the case of one of them, thanks to her, I start investigating the non-governmental organization, that third sector company. They make money from these things, and they have her daughter depriving the mother of visits. What happens if these mothers don't have the agility, the ability, the knowledge, don't know where to go, or can't find a public defender? Well, and for someone to care about this and make it their own, because that doesn't usually happen, these women always end up losing them because these children are immediately sent to foster families. And that foster care turns into permanent adoption, and then you can't get your child back. What happens in the Castellón case I'm telling you about? In the case I published with that irregular foster care, what it was causing was a forced attachment of the girl so that they would have an excuse not to return her, justifying that the girl had become attached to another family. These people said in YouTube videos that she was the daughter of the lesbian, gay, transgender, bisexual, and intersex community and that they were her parents, which is bullshit.
She already had her father. There are still videos about it on YouTube.
Yes.
They said this girl was the collective's daughter.
Man, during the pandemic era. It's about the sons and daughters of the lesbian, gay, transgender, bisexual, and intersex family. In the video I'm going to give you, you can see it, which is the video that made them believe me. The boys and girls of lesbian, gay, transgender, bisexual, and intersex couples help us show people that we are really good people. In other words, fostering an adoption as a goal for the community, not as the best interest of the child. Social services, just like the rest of the population. But that's how it is, and legal practice in matters involving minors must result in the best interest of the child. Is that the ultimate goal? Well, no, the ultimate goal was for the group to be socially legitimized, to become parents, having children that they obviously can't have, so they have to take them away. And I repeat here that this girl is being taken away with complete impunity, with all the power and all the institutional resources. I say this because in their complaint, they claim that I stigmatized the minor by calling her a stolen girl, but a stolen girl is a stolen girl. I mean, you stigmatize a minor when you take her away from her family. When you deprive her of knowing her father, that girl will never know her father again, and that father probably not. He probably wouldn't still be alive if that hadn't happened. That's how you stigmatize a minor, so that's what they want. They blame me for Article 199 of the Penal Code, which is the crime of disclosure of secrets due to my profession. That is, in addition to prison and a fine, they are also asking for me to be disqualified from practicing my profession. What does it mean to inform?
Journalist?
Gentlemen, if I'm not a journalist, then I'll keep informing as a citizen. No.
Yes, like we do.
Aren't citizens supposed to have freedom of expression? No, yes.
If today the best journalists don't have the degree, no.
Well, economic journalists are economists. They're not journalists.
No, yes, but that's another topic.
Yes.
But yes, well, you keep reporting as an example. So, after everything you've told us, do you start a war against this injustice? And they report you? They come after you again?
They report me. I understand that they report me because I exposed them, right? Even they won't claim I revealed info about the minor because that's false. I exposed their info. They say that I have made their lives miserable and that I don't forgive, right? But the ones making families suffer are you.
How many cases like these are there? How many? A lot. More than 20.
A lot. What I'm asking for in the report, in the complaint to the ombudsman, is that I'm trying to legitimize myself and go through the transparency route and say, gentlemen, I have this, you investigate. And I go to the ombudsman who has his little button. You go to the ombudsman's website in Madrid and you see there's a little button to report cases of children stolen during the Franco regime.
ESP, very important.
Well, to this day, they are stolen with impunity and they keep being stolen, period. Instead of giving a grant to someone who has behaved well with your administration, well, I give you a child. And that's at the expense of ruining the lives of many people. And it's being done if you...
One question. But we have no evidence that those children have been mistreated or abused or anything like that. No.
No, because in each of these cases, you should go through a legal process, really, This is a matter that will be addressed in the legal proceedings currently taking place in Castellón, in which I, by the way, have been a private prosecutor since 2023, before they filed charges against me and before I was investigated and went to trial. That's why I became a private prosecutor in this case in Castellón. In the case in which Monica Oltra and several high-ranking officials, including Cardenzo Noyosa, are being investigated for illegal detention of a minor, coercion of the family, and malfeasance. Okay, why am I saying this? Because in this case, things related to parental alienation are going to come up. Things that are said to the girl and that shouldn't be said to her.
So right now, what are you facing?
4 to 6 years in prison, a 50,000 euro fine, and 6 years of professional disqualification.
What worries you the least, I imagine?
It's that even from prison, I'm going to take this matter all the way to the end.
But let's see. They're accusing you of revealing secrets, you told me.
Of revealing secrets.
They're stigmatizing the victim, but what exact crime are they accusing you of?
They say that I stigmatize her when I call her a stolen child.
Uh-huh.
They say it's a hate crime.
You had told me too, right?
Aggravating factor of hatred against the lesbian, gay, transgender, bisexual, and intersex community? Yes.
Okay.
The aggravating factor allows them to give you a longer sentence. Otherwise, they could only ask for 3 years. But now they're asking me for 4.5. And okay, what they're saying is that I've committed a crime of revealing secrets, which I think is just an excuse to end up convicting me for a hate crime. They want to go for a hate crime no matter what, because the technical crime, which is revealing secrets, come on, revealing secrets, the hearings, the rulings that decide this placement was irregular are public, so everything explained there is public. The information about these people, just like mine, is public in a court ruling. Those were the so-called revelations of secrets. What the prosecutor says is that in the video I share of these people, where I simply edit a video. Well, the producer edits a video with the material I give him. The material I provide is a bunch of photos taken from this man's Facebook profile with all the politicians who have favored them. And at the end, there's a photo of the wedding of these two, and a black-haired back of someone, which is the little girl. This photo is on their Facebook profile picture. They say that this photo in that video is a revelation of secrets, which is a lie. Because I blur the head of the girl who's facing away and nothing is visible, plus you'll see it anyway. And they say that's the information clinging to that so the press can build a false narrative. She says that I give information about the minor, the information that I would give about the minor. It's the blurred black head from behind which they had as their Facebook profile avatar.
Listen, Cristina, I want to ask you something very important right now. Doing these shows, can't that harm you in your legal process?
I imagine they're going to submit it, and I understand that I would submit it if I were the prosecution, but my purpose isn't for them to acquit me or convict me. I mean, I know I'm screwed. Because they need to build the monster so that the person who is going to be prosecuted and who will sit in front of a judge for covering up child abuse like Monica Ultra in the end got there because of a monster. That is, when you take down a regional government after having brought the entire Department of Equality before a judge, you change the status of judges and officials. A third of High Court of Justice judges in the Valencian community and other regions are selected by political parties. Certain prosecutors as well. I mean, I'm not going to get all conspiratorial. I'm not going to talk about the UFER. But of course, there's a perversion of the judicial system, which is not only in the hands of prosecutors. I know that I'm already sentenced.
Do you think you're going to be convicted? I do. And that you're going to go to jail?
I don't know. Maybe, I mean, I'm going to appeal, but I know very well that I have 5 or 6 years of appealing and fighting ahead of me. What I refuse to accept is that they create a false narrative. I mean, the people. I want people to know why I'm going to be prosecuted, why I'm going to be judged, what I've had to go through up until now. What about the children under guardianship? What about the families who suffer the loss of privacy, of what is most sacred and most loved? I would die without my son. I imagine it's the same for them, and that's what's happening, and it needs to be told, and we need to go. Death, and in these cases, don't ask me why, but if you get involved in cases with minors, they're going to kill you. I mean, they want you to die. This isn't cancellation. When you prosecute a new person for 4 years and ask for 9 years, do you want that person to... There are people who aren't mentally strong or not that strong, and there are people who just can't handle it. You have to give a lot of explanations to the families. You have to do a lot of psychology at home. You have to explain things at school so that the mothers who see you and whose children want to come to your house know that they're safe. I mean, my digital footprint now is the one these people have created, right? And I have my name, and I have my professional reputation and my ethical reputation.
But me? The digital footprint you have, at least in our environment, is pretty positive, like a warrior, but there are a lot of people who, unfortunately, don't understand.
When you search for Cristina Seguí, kids or minors, now you see the news that these people have created, which is Cristina Seguí shares the video of assaulted minors, grounded.
Have you had problems with the parents of No?
No,
With the parents at your son's school?
no, apparently not. Not that I know of, but I have had to explain it and I have had to ask the teachers to keep an eye on what was happening in class.
Your son hasn't had any problems.
Has he had to go through certain things at school? And I understand it because you appear on television. That's why I was on La Sexta, on Telecinco, on Spanish television for a whole week. I mean, the lost profits from your professional activity are lethal. I had a contract to work at a major newspaper, making a video a day about political topics, and that fell through and collapsed. The day they told me that I had been sentenced, I was actually in the car on my way to Valencia from Madrid. So, is what the family has to go through the worst part? And obviously, like I said, I don't even take pills to sleep. I'm not lying. I'm not afraid to sit in front of a judge. I've always been very calm, but this time I'm sitting in front of a judge knowing that it's done. What I refuse is for people not to know what happened. Why am I there? And besides, it's a public hearing. Everything I'm saying is going to be seen. Anyone who's in that room that day will see it.
I'm going to go see the trial. What day was it?
March 2nd at 9:30 in the morning. It's early. It's really early.
I'm up to date.
The City of Justice.
I'm up to date.
And I imagine they'll prevent people from getting in. I mean, they'll do whatever they have to do, but they can...
Or if they can.
In theory, no, because people with press credentials can get in, but of course they don't want that.
We're not press, we're YouTubers.
Well, you are a media outlet. They want the press to get in, but only their own, and they want your face sitting on the bench. As if you were Monica Ultra's abusive husband, and I'm not the abusive husband. I am the person who has prosecuted the Valencian administration for covering up the sexual abuse committed by this lady's husband. Meanwhile, the ex-husband...
Right?
Right now, yes, but they stayed married, living under the same roof for 8 more months after the minor's report. I know this because, since I'm the accuser, we had this man's records, right? And Mrs. Susana Gisbert, she should have acted instead of me, instead of looking the other way. But in the end, it's the PRISM, the feminist approach, which is anti-punitive. They say this themselves. This is very important. They're already against applying the penal code to rapists, and they say it. Vicky Rossell said it in a famous Podemos conference. We are anti-punitive. Sorry, yes, we are anti-punitive. Feminism has never been punitive. Putting the aggressor in jail, the island to her, I can give you this.
No, that's clear. I agree with that. I mean, the actions of Irene Montero. The only thing she has truly done well, and the only ones for whom she has made laws that have benefited, have been the rapists.
The prisons are filled with innocent people, poor outcasts who fight over the custody of their children and who are victims of false accusations, and with people who tweet while they release sexual offenders. Why? Because the sexual offender is their best client. Their pawn is the one who drives up the crime statistics, and they receive subsidies based on those crime rates going up, and they profit from it.
That's likely why they support illegal immigration, which directly correlates with more rapes.
You're the Sinaloa cartel. What do you want? Dealers?
Drugs, addicts.
Street dealing, people on the corners, addicts, zombies, people with problems. A devastated society that has to turn to other things, that has no sense of belonging to anything, that doesn't believe in anything. This is the society of these people?
Totally, Cristina. But I have hope that you can win the trial. I will pray for it to be so. Don't you think you have a chance, really? Are you already very pessimistic?
I believe, and I swear to you, this gives me an incredible sense of freedom, that I have 100% chance to expose what is going to happen there, and from that trial, what will continue to happen. Because I'm not going to let it go. I'm not going to let it go.
What will happen next and what will continue?
Well, it will be known who is there and what things they are doing. Who are the psychologists who are helping to take those families away? What procedures or therapies are they using with those children? What are they doing with those children? And it will be known with full names.
But one question, are you already firmly convicted or not yet?
With the ANI thing, with that, right? The trial is the first trial. It's going to be the first trial in the first instance.
No, I don't mean that. Are you already firmly convicted for the thing with the girls?
No, well,
No, because you're still appealing.
if the Supreme Court rejects that appeal, in principle, that appeal takes about a year or so. In the admissions chamber now, the admissions chamber, which usually admits about 15% of the appeals it receives, must decide. If it agrees to review, it goes back and reviews everything. And it overturns or upholds that ruling 2 or 3 years after the admissions chamber has said it accepted it.
So are you still convicted today?
Until today, I am convicted, but it's not final.
Since justice that is slow is not justice, it doesn't make sense. And besides, how can they not accept the appeal when the prosecution presents evidence, as you said, mutilated? Because I'm going to post a tweet. Whoever wants to can rewind the podcast. The tweet is posted. Or Buru can post a tweet again. Yes. She is convicted because she directly attacks the victims for a single act.
A tweet, yes?
Because she directly attacks the victims. And they cut out where she mentions Europa Press twice. That way it seems like she's talking about the victims, not about Europa.
That I'm attacking and tweeting against the victims.
Yes. Well, not that they're already convicted.
Yes, they're convicted. They really are.
Legally.
The legal reality is that they are. I mean, I can't say no there.
No, better not to talk about it because, in theory...
If this country had free speech. Handling the information I handle and seeing what I've seen, I could say that unfairly. Those kids are spending 4 years unfairly. Another thing is that there would have to be a huge amount of work done with them.
By the way,
The mother of the minor was dedicated to, and even better. The problem comes from her, not from me, teaching children on TikTok how to masturbate.
Well.
I said it was going to be crazy.
It's all very serious, and above all, I'm really worried about the issue of child abduction, but I see that this has little to do with the Armengol case in the Balearic Islands.
No. Because you take girls away from their families, and in the end, a child matters to their father, their mother, their family. If your mother or father doesn't care, then a sibling or an uncle will. But it has to be someone with roots, with a sincere parent-child relationship. When a child's development as a person, their ethical and moral evolution depends on a public official. And above all, on riffraff. Whether they've gotten into the third sector to profit from the huge amounts of money provided by European funds and the general state budget. For each minor, I mean, you have 4,000, 5,000, 6,000 euros a month just for your child's education. Who has that kind of money? Could we send 3 of our children to a private school in Switzerland? This is what is given for each minor. They keep this money, not the families. When the children leave at 18, they leave with 1,000 euros, 500 won jars, 500 at most. The families don't receive a single cent, so why don't you help the families directly without middlemen? Why aren't there constructive social services that help those families so that their children can grow up safely and with all the guarantees and then be able to enter the job market and develop like anyone else? Those children end up in a foster center at 13 or 14 years old, the girls prostituting themselves. Or a 4-year-old son raped by a Maghrebi, as just happened in Navarra. What is a 16-year-old unaccompanied minor doing in the same space as a 4-year-old child? The mother finds out the next day that her son was raped the day before. I mean, families without rights.
The minor has the fewest rights according to the Poetic Justice Association and Melchor Mirales. Children have their identification taken away. Young people, teenagers, they don't have the right to file a complaint.
That is to say,
the people who should have the most rights, who should have the most privileges, who should be the most protected, they are the ones who are the least protected when they come under the care of the state. No.
I encourage anyone to look at the academic and intellectual development of a minor when they turn 18 and have to leave that center. After, in addition, having been shaped, having been forged, going out, escaping every now and then to steal, they are real crime hotspots. And the girls, pregnant, at 18 or 19 years old, already having 2 or 3 children from different fathers. The supervised centers right now, the guardianship centers, are hells that devastate future adults, children, and destroy families. In some cases, those children are better off with their families. Probably not, but I can assure you that a huge number of those children could have a much better life than the one they have now. And that money should be focused on helping the families instead of taking their children away. And they're taken away arbitrarily. Administration prevails over justice, over judicial decisions, and this is an unwritten rule. It's always like this, but why? Because the most a judge will impose on you is a fine, and the administration pays that fine with taxpayer money. Families can't afford litigation. They won't challenge the official.
What solution is there to all this?
Expose it, reveal the forensic psychologist by name and surname.
You're convinced that this happens all over Spain, right?
I knew an incredible case in Oviedo of a mother who had her daughter taken away because there was an anonymous report at the school, and they took her daughter away because of an anonymous report at the school. She says that her mother hit her one day. The school calls social services, the police show up there. I think it's the police, yes, the regional police. In Oviedo, yes, I don't want to mix up cases. The police take the girl, they take her from the school, and this girl, after a month or two, the mother and the lawyer write to me because they need to publicize the matter.
What's the lawyer's name?
I don't remember, but I can look it up for you.
Maybe it was the one from Political Justice. He's from there?
From Oviedo, well, yes, from Oviedo, so probably, I think so, probably, I'll look it up for you now. That girl ends up, well, on a website being restored. Restored. She is restored while she is in the care center because they run away, sleep outside, and nothing happens. It's impossible. That's why they want to put the family in charge. That's why the traditional family is something to be eliminated, not even from the family. It's what builds.
Because a strong father sets fire to all of that?
And let me tell you something. Above all,
First, to destroy the family. They have to destroy the man. The man is already destroyed legally.
they have to destroy the man legally, and they have to pit man against man.
And that's where feminism plays a role. Like, what is your opinion about feminism? Because she, just so you know, is not only an investigative journalist, she is also the author of several books.
Manual to Defend Yourself from a Feminazi, the Feminist Mafia, which I wrote in 2019 and 2020. And what I believe is that they are a clientelist network to illegally finance political parties, just like the lesbian, gay, transgender, bisexual, and intersex collective illegally finances political parties. Do they receive public money from Europe or from the general state budget? And is it sent to the political parties? They hand out small bribes, which might not be so small, but for them it's a lot, and they keep the rest for the foundation. Women of Elena Valenciano, from the famous purple points of that time.
How much do the purple points cost?
Well, she took 500,000 euros. She misused 500,000 euros. That Isabel Garcia, by the way. My client also has photos with her.
Susana Gisbert, not Carmen Rowe.
The God too. The lesbian, gay, transgender, bisexual, and intersex secretary of the Socialist Party, Susana Gisbert. She has a lot of photos with Monica Ultra because, among other things, Monica Ultra presented her book. She has a poetry collection. Does this lady write?
What I'm saying is the following. It's a kind of war of attrition against anyone who dares to speak up. Because Melco Mirales also, sorry for talking so much, but the whole issue about minors is very much Melco Mirales. He has also suffered terrible consequences for exposing the Cote Cabezuda case, in which television presenters, judges, police officers, high-ranking officials, all the top of the system have been involved. They would have sexual relations with Cote Cabezudo's models. And this guy enjoyed total impunity from within the justice system with a female judge who dismissed everything. Nothing happens here. It became such a big deal that they had no choice.
That's what's going to happen. If it depends on me, that's what's going to happen. If they put me in jail, I'm going to make it even more visible. I'm not going to give up, and now I'm definitely not going to give up because they've tried to take everything from me. I mean, there comes a point when you're asked to live with 9 years of the threat of prison. Has there been a moment when it took a lot from you? But it also gives you a freedom to say, well, okay, fine, then let's go to war, because what they want is to kill you or for you to kill yourself. Some people end their lives over things like this.
I mean,
It's 9 years in prison. I mean, it's tens of thousands of euros already paid out to lawyers. It's the uncertainty of like, hey, I want to buy a house, but of course, what happens if this opportunity comes up? But if I go to prison, I mean, you can't live your life, right? And your professional career gets cut short. It just gets cut short, but
integrity matters more. Are you earning points for another life? I admire you.
it's just that if they don't kill you, there's no other option. What are you gonna do? Get depressed, lock yourself up at home? I've never been a super social person, but then you have to set an example at home and then you have to finish what you started. I mean, if they think I was going to step away from the popular prosecution in Castellón or step away from the prosecution of Monica Oltra, I haven't done it and won't do it. Grandparents who have been fighting for 4.5, 5 years for their granddaughter whom they happily got back a year ago, don't do that.
They already got her back, thanks to you.
No thanks to them.
Yes, thanks to you, but you've helped a lot, man.
I like to think that I've helped to publicize it and to reveal the identity of some guys who were within reach of any journalist. If there's a question, a legal process that took place in Castellón that has to do with the corruption of minors, because this is corruption of minors. How could you not investigate or publish who benefits from that corruption of minors?
I have a question for you. Why are you being charged with an aggravating factor against the lesbian, gay, transgender, bisexual, and intersex community? Have you made specific statements about this topic?
No. What I say, and I won't get tired of saying it, is that if they were the president of the Hunting Federation of the Valencian community, or if it were you, the one who was given a baby, if it were the Vox administration and the Popular Party, the one who would be prosecuted right now would be you and Vox and the Popular Party, and I would have impunity.
100% you would have impunity. A statue of a liberator of minors who is taking minors away from the far right, which uses its power to give children to supporters. But of course, they're protected lesbian, gay, transgender, bisexual, and intersex. If you say anything, it's already a hate crime.
You can't play the victim card. First of all, giving us the impression that the one who thinks being lesbian, gay, transgender, bisexual, and intersex or being gay isn't normal is you. Because you're turning it into something extraordinary and into your victim card to hide that you're a terrible person who takes children away from families. You can't build your life or be happy at the expense of ruining other people's lives. That can't be, especially when we're talking about their children and grandchildren, and that can't be good.
Cristina, you've pretty much told us everything you had to tell us. I truly hope my audience will give you their full support. I truly hope that justice is served in both the first case and the second. I'm going to try my best. I'm going to try to be there on the day of the trial. I'll try. I can't promise because my life is already very busy, but I'll try. Are several YouTubers going? Are there a lot of people supporting you? Yes, well...
Kake Minuesa is coming, Infoblogger is coming, and Carlitos from Spain is coming.
Hey, well, that's great because they're lesbian, gay, transgender, bisexual, and intersex, of course. Wait, they're not lesbian, gay, transgender, bisexual, and intersex. Hey, I hate a group. They're free people. They're homosexual people, exactly.
Who don't live?
Who are not from a group of eyes.
They won't have children by taking them from others.
You know what happens? It really pisses me off, man, that people can't tell the difference between a gay person, a homosexual, and someone in the community. Someone from the community is a person who does activism, someone who wants to go to schools to talk, people who want to be everywhere. histrionic people who don't keep their sexuality private as they should.
And who think that mutilating children has to do with children's rights, but mutilating children is another kind of child corruption.
Absolutely. The fact that they think giving hormones or mutilating minors under 15 is something positive seems truly outrageous to me. And on that, I will always be against them.
It's one of the reasons why minors are taken away. It's one of the reasons for the regional laws, in this case, the law of the...
Have you seen the email from Jeffrey Epstein discussing with one of the top biologists in the United States, saying that they had to push the trans agenda because it was quite productive for the activities they carried out on their island? That there should be women with penises because they had the best of both worlds, while trans men had the worst of both.
Exactly.
Literally, this is what they say. And look, we could talk about Epstein and we could talk about how children are used throughout the entire Western Bloc. Don't you think there's some kind of evil, demonic spirituality that uses children for sacrifices, rituals, sex?
I think there's something that's nothing as elevated as the earthly academic reality that these people have been trying to imprint on the worldview, which has to do with childhood for hundreds of years and has to do with the normalization of pedophilia. It has to do with an agenda that began to be experimented with and practiced in Germany until the early 2000s for 30 Kendler, right? Is related to the Kendler experiment
That he endorsed. Let's discuss the Kendler experiment, which many people haven't heard about. Today I was about to make a post on my school, but I have to be very careful because they could take me down on school, but I'm going to do it very carefully and I'm going to talk about this. But I would like the audience to know more about the whole experiment.
Kendler was a German doctor, psychologist, and psychiatrist who was gay and who received support from the German government. From the Western government?
Western.
Socialist, well, all the facilities, even subsidies.
Was it socialist, the government? Yes.
At that time, yes.
Okay. In fact, it was socialism. In fact,
there was Willy Brandt and all those people who had a close relationship with Felipe González's Socialist Party and who received, well, he implemented an experiment called the zoo experiment or something like that, zoo station or something like that, through which the German government subsidized that the guardianship was given to convicted pedophiles with final sentences and who had even been in prison. That they were given children under guardianship so that these children would grow from childhood to adulthood with these pedophiles, obviously, through pedophilic acts. This is not...
We are not making this up.
This isn't a conspiracy. This is very well documented. Anyone can look it up with names and surnames. For 35 years, it was carried out with the approval, help, and institutional support of that government, which poured large amounts of money into this experiment. And the results were pedophiles.
Convicted.
They were. And
the results were good.
Tormented children, suicides, adults with obvious problems who have later abused other minors. Which minors are easier to use for these kinds of things?
Orphans, vulnerable families, people under state guardianship.
People who are even bothersome because nobody wants to hear about these things. These are complicated things. They're things like illness. Nobody believes they're going to get amyotrophic lateral sclerosis or a rare disease. And suddenly it happens to you. Well, these things happen. And besides, the range is getting wider and wider.
But the thing is, it's not just that these things happen. The thing is that there are mechanisms at work in the world that we don't have the ability to influence, that unfortunately operate by doing these kinds of things with children, because Epstein's circle ranged from royalty to politicians to major Hollywood executives to high-ranking military officials. It's just that it's everyone who has it, every figure who has power. It seems to be in any field, in any industry, it seems like you have to go through a hoop, and that hoop is always... it's sordid, shady, perverted.
It's being over the edge. It's having had too much. The globalist Masonic circles that are now heavily represented in the 2030 agenda, which everyone knows about. Until recently, it was dismissed as a conspiracy theory, and it doesn't require you to visit the United States. The president of the government used his father-in-law's saunas with prostituted minors to store information and blackmail politicians, judges, prosecutors, and all the people who are now coming to light.
Right now, this has already been proven that minors were prostituted in Sanchez's father-in-law's saunas. This is going to get us in trouble. For Asiman, Pedro Sanchez has a father-in-law who used saunas where minors were prostituted.
It's been widely published.
But in this country, that doesn't affect anyone, huh? In fact, if you report it, hey, let homosexuals be happy.
Yes, no, well, they let them be happy and let the kids sleep with whoever they want.
Only Irene Mondero said,
Like Irene Mondero said, what happened? People really believe that was some kind of, right?
because she repeated it a month later.
Yes, she has repeated it quite a few times. She has repeated it a lot.
Children have the right, they have the right to go to bed,
With whomever they want.
to sleep with anyone they choose and not be touched if they don't want to.
And to be touched only by whoever they want. Exactly. Only by those they want. Exactly. And that's what's happening in the foster care centers, not in Irene Mondero's house, obviously, but in the homes of foster children, which is the child protection system. And regardless of the regional government, the company, the third sector, everything related to the NGOs that manage these foster care centers, they have to do with the left, and with the left, that's my view.
Do you see this as a right versus left issue?
I'm asking you,
Really?
because when it comes to abuse, no, but when it comes to guardianship and corruption of minors, yes. Another thing is that the legal responsibility falls on the government and the department that oversees those minors. It can be of any political party.
The PP also has it. But that's where I come in and tell you, I think that's already too outdated. That thing about right, that thing about left, yes.
But there's one thing you really need to keep in mind. There are certain structures that are still being used, like the winter quarters that Errayon talked about, so that people can last or keep making money while they're not in power. Those clientelist networks, those networks that the right uses as a strategy to appease the far left so they don't take to the streets and burn everything down, so they don't make their lives too complicated. And one of those winter quarters are the third sector companies that are connected to the child protection centers.
It's something. It's true that the left in Spain is an absolute powerhouse because even when they're not in power, they're able to influence the government's decisions. Because if they mess with the rackets where thousands and thousands of freeloaders make their living, those thousands and thousands of freeloaders have associations of very violent people who will go out into the streets and burn everything down. On the other hand, the right politically...
And the thing about the children is really bothersome. Why do you think that's what bothers them the most? Is it because nobody wants to get involved with those things? Ultimately, the person exposing it is the criminal, not the one refusing to commit the crime, right? So as long as people know about it, and that's why I'm making this effort this month. That's great. Well, that's what it is. Here it is in your field. Let people find out through you. Let them know at home. Well, I'm happy. My efforts right now are focused on that.
Do you expect any reaction if convicted?
A reaction from them?
From society in general?
No, I don't expect a public lynching, but I've already experienced that. I mean, I'm used to it.
Doesn't the Spanish people's meekness make you angry? I'm asking.
Look, there comes a time when, and this is going to sound really sad, but I don't fight for the Spanish people anymore. I don't fight for the Spanish people anymore. If someone asks me for help and I think it's a just cause, I help, but I don't fight for the Spanish people. I don't like the country I live in because it wasn't that hard to foresee what is happening. I mean, among all these things, I'm being condemned for a Twitter thread where I talk about Plus Ultra in 2021, right? In 2021. Plus Ultra? It was a trafficking network to move drugs between Latin America, Iran, Africa, and Spain. What has come out this week about Plus Ultra? They were transporting drugs without their passengers knowing, and today they were transporting weapons from Madrid to Guinea. We are, and because we have given them the headquarters of transnational Hispanic American, Ibero-American, and African crime.
Did you just say you were convicted for mentioning Plus Ultra?
It's in the Supreme Court's admissions chamber where they're handling my case.
But what you just told me has just come out, and for you, no one is going to get you in trouble for that.
A motion, a written statement with the new facts before the admission is rejected to prevent any temptation to reject the admission of that appeal. You can only appeal to the Supreme Court for a violation of the law, not for new facts. If there has been an incorrect application of the criminal charge, in this case, they were accusing me of slander and libel against a private company in which I testified during that trial. Julio Martinez, who was later arrested by the UDES and who is also about to be prosecuted right now, is the president of Plus Ultra being charged for saying everything that is now coming out. I'm also convicted for calling Abalos a John.
And he is a John.
He's in jail. I said he was a John and that he also laundered money with Kiedels, or with a non-governmental organization based in Valencia that's Peruvian, or that he bought a fake doctorate in Chimbote in Peru. The problem is the justice system. The problem isn't
that the justice system serves the politicians just like the police do.
The problem isn't what happens to you. The problem is that nobody stops it. You do your job. Your role is to inform, to uncover things. When you sit in front of a judge and there is you are
the criminal.
Principle of truthfulness. In criminal cases, in dubio pro reo does not apply, so doubt is not resolved in the defendant's favor. Criminal law is the last resort of the law. Otherwise, the prisons would be, I don't know, there would be 200 secats in Spain. Well, that's a lie. That's a lie. Do you want me to believe that an investigator, a first instance judge, and 3 magistrates from the Provincial Court of Valencia believe that one of my tweets, that tweet, is torture?
No, they don't believe it, but they were making an example. They were setting a precedent.
The message is lethal because it's collective and it also warns and teaches. And they tell you this is what can happen to you. That famous trace of hatred the Prime Minister talks about, now know that he worries about so much. Well, so this sentence of mine, if the Supreme Court confirms it, it means that now both sides, right? Both the left and right can play the same game. Using this conviction for a tweet, you can be convicted of torture. You don't just go to civil court for slander to pay a fine. They can put you in jail for 15 months.
Well, Cristina, I really just want to wish you luck. You have my support. I'll try to be at the trial, and I'm going to give you the opportunity. Is there anything you want to say to the audience? Anything you want to close the show with? No.
Look, the issue in Castellón getting involved in these things with minors. When you report that institutions are stealing children with impunity and disobeying court rulings, destroying lives, it's one of the issues, if not the biggest one, the biggest one. I'm proud and I will surely remain proud in my professional career. I know it will never help me advance extraordinarily in my professional field, but that's how it is.
Are you proud?
I'm quite proud.
Well, I'm also proud that there are still journalists like that. Please go on. I understand that from my position, it's easy to say with everything you have. For now, I've only faced public ridicule. I haven't had to stand trial for anything I've done yet, but I'm afraid that day isn't far off if we keep going like this. Honestly, this podcast started off like a rocket. Now I'm dealing with a terrible shadow ban. You don't recommend it? They've already taken down 2 of our shows. We have 2 strikes, 1 more screw up, and they'll take us down. That's just how things are now. And now the government is trying to make new laws so that this kind of content can be deleted for inciting hate, which is totally arbitrary. It's just not worth it.
Yeah.
They're the ones who decide. Of course, this costs me money. Being here, paying my producer, paying the rent, having the cameras, all of this costs money. And they make it pretty hard. Spreading information is complicated, and I'm watching with a lot of fear that, unfortunately, they're already getting involved. They're realizing that this side is winning the war, and this side is not the right-wing side. Gentlemen, don't get confused. It's the side of truth. Truth is won regardless of who says it. There's not a lot of different truths.
It's the truth.
The truth is one.
It's the truth.
I'm a bear. Christina is a she-bear. That's not a joke. That's the truth. And unfortunately, telling the truth in a world that only survives on lies makes you an enemy of those who want the lie to last.
Always say no to death. Always, always never make agreements. And this is something I'm going to end with. Never make agreements with those who threaten you so that you let them live. I mean, just so they spare your life. In my first case, the prosecutor tried to offer me a deal to pay a fine.
Which was for you to withdraw from the accusation.
No, she didn't try to offer me something at the courtroom door to avoid going to trial and give me a conviction just so there could be headlines. I didn't listen to her before, and if she offers the same thing again, I won't listen. They never reach agreements with those who want to let you live just a little, much less than what you deserve.
You're amazing, Cristina. Honestly, I've really enjoyed this show, and well, folks, I hope we all support her. She has been very brave. She's very brave and faces, well, she has a family, she has children, she's facing prison sentences. So let's support her with everything, and I hope you've enjoyed this show. See you in the next episode of The Factory.